The runway is a gray line, widening through the windshield, and your hands are on the controls of a real airplane for the first time in your life. Behind you, a full cabin of people are checking their phones, half listening to a safety briefing they've heard 100 times before. None of them know that the person helping fly them home right now has never done this outside of a simulator. There is no quiet trial run built into this job. No empty flight to get the feel of it first. No passengers-free rehearsal before the real thing. The first time you land the actual aircraft, it is already this: full cabin, full weight, full consequence. 6 hours earlier, none of that has happened yet. You badge into the crew entrance before the sun is up, the same badge scan you've run at the training center for 6 weeks straight. This time it opens a different door. Getting here took longer than 6 weeks. It took years, a private certificate, then a commercial one, then an instrument rating, then months of teaching other students in small planes, just to build the flight hours federal law requires before an airline will even look at you. You did that part for instructors' pay. Enough to get by, not much more. None of that shows on your face this morning. What shows is that you're early and a little too awake. In the briefing room, the captain, today technically your supervising check airman, slides the weather printout across the table. Fuel numbers, maintenance log entries, the route. He reads through it half out loud, half to himself, the way someone does a thing they've done 1,000 times. This ordinary 15 minutes is the reason a plane full of strangers can trust two people they've never met with their lives. Nothing about today's flight has moved yet, and it has already been checked twice. Outside, the tarmac is cold enough to see your breath. The walk-around comes next. This is the part no one warns you about. 10 minutes circling the aircraft nose to tail, wingtip to landing gear, checking for anything wrong before anyone is allowed to sit down inside it. And you do it exactly the same way you do it in perfect weather. The sameness is the entire point. Airline flying was not built to trust a pilot's memory in the moment. It was built on checklists, the same list, in the same order, every single time. A discipline that exists because decades ago, people learned the hard way that memory alone isn't something you bet an aircraft on. You didn't invent that habit. You inherited it. And this morning, you're the one keeping it alive, whether you think about where it came from or not. Back inside, you and the captain run the checklist together, item by item, out loud. Then taxi. Then takeoff. Somewhere in there, the cockpit goes quiet in a way that has nothing to do with mood. Below 10,000 feet, federal regulation bans anything that isn't essential to actually flying the airplane. No idle conversation. No eating a meal. Nothing to read that isn't related to the flight in front of you. It's a rule written for exactly these minutes, because investigators once traced real accidents back to crews distracted by precisely the kind of small talk that feels harmless until it isn't. Air traffic control comes faster than you're used to. The weather is real instead of programmed, and everything the simulator taught you about timing turns out to have been a slower, gentler rehearsal for this. Then cruise, and the whole airplane exhales. This is the part passengers assume is automatic, the plane just flying itself while you sit there doing nothing. It isn't. Autopilot on a modern airliner works closer to cruise control in a car. Convenient, but you're still steering the flight, still watching every number on every screen, still one decision away from taking it back by hand at any moment. Somewhere on the ground, a dispatcher you will never meet has already signed off on this exact route and this exact fuel load, legally, on paper, just as responsible for whether this flight continues as the captain sitting beside you. None of it is visible out the window. One of the parts of this job nobody outside it ever sees. Cruise is also where you notice something worth mentioning, a number that doesn't quite sit right, a clearance worth double-checking before you accept it without question. There was a version of this profession, once, where a first officer might have swallowed an observation like that, rather than challenge a captain out loud. A crash long ago was traced partly to exactly that silence, a crew that saw a problem coming and didn't say it plainly enough, soon enough. The entire culture of this cockpit was rebuilt after that, on purpose, so it wouldn't happen again. You are trained, specifically and deliberately, to say something when something is worth saying. So you do. The captain doesn't bristle. He checks it, thanks you, and keeps flying. That isn't generosity, that's the system doing exactly what it was rebuilt to do. Descent comes faster than you expect. Then approach. Then the runway again. The same gray line from the very start of all this, except now you understand what it actually took to get here. Pilots who have lived this exact morning describe it as something no amount of simulator time fully prepares you for. The timing feels compressed. The controls respond differently than you remember. It is, by their own description, nerve-wracking and genuinely exciting at once, one of the only moments in the job that never happens quite the same way twice. Your hands know the motions. The rest of you is finding out in real time that knowing the motions and doing them for real were never actually the same thing. The wheels touch. The airplane slows. Nobody in the cabin claps, because nobody in the cabin has any idea what they just sat through. At the gate, they file past you toward baggage claim, already back on their phones, already forgetting this flight existed the moment they're off it. You don't get that luxury. Pilots who've lived this stretch describe the nights afterward the same way. A hotel room whose layout you half forget by morning, and a kind of sleep that isn't peace so much as exhaustion finally catching up. Somewhere behind today is a bill most of those passengers will never think about: the years it took to reach this cockpit. The flight hours built one underpaid instructing job at a time. The training debt that still leaves plenty of new first officers splitting a bed in a shared crash pad near base. Even with airline pay climbing after years of pilot shortages, some nights between trips still end with something out of a wrapper, eaten standing up, at 2 in the morning. And somewhere in a computer system tonight, a number gets attached to your name. Your seniority number, the one that will quietly govern almost everything about the rest of this career. What you're allowed to fly, when you're allowed to upgrade to captain, whether you're home for the holidays or 3 time zones away. It doesn't move for skill. It doesn't move for effort. It only moves with time, and it never resets. You didn't just fly an airplane today. You started a career that will be measured for decades against a list with your name permanently on it, somewhere below everyone hired before you and above everyone hired after. The runway behind you sits empty again. Tomorrow, someone else badges into that same crew entrance before sunrise, certain of nothing except that the door is about to open. That door opens again tomorrow, and behind another one is a completely different life. We'll step through it next. If you enjoyed experiencing this career from the inside, consider subscribing to Occupation Files. And let us know in the comments, which profession should we live through next?